So I'm going to show you how to make the bridle ribbed clutch. So I have two hooks. I have a size 10 and a size 12. So we're going to start out with your bigger size hook to make just the chain. If you don't have a bigger size hook, then just try to crochet really loosely for your initial chain. So we're going to chain 22. We're going to start with a slip knot onto the hook. Okay, and we're going to chain 22. Okay, and now we're going to switch hooks. Now I'm going to skip my first chain. I'm going to go into the second, and we're going to make single crochets all the way across, but we're going to go into the third back loop. So here's your chain. If you turn your chain to the back, there are these humps. You want to go into those humps right there. So not the first, but the second chain, we're going to go into our humps. And we're going to do 21 single crochet with our smaller hook size. All the way across. Okay, I'm at the end of my row, and so now I'm going to chain one and turn like this. And now I'm going to slip stitch across into every single stitch, starting with the very first one right here. Here, not here. We're going to slip stitch. And we're going to go into every stitch all the way across. And you're going to see that it creates, let me get some more yarn really quick. It creates this nice braid in the front. You see? When you work with t-shirt yarn, you kind of have your hands full. I mean, it helps to have bigger hands probably. Okay, so now we're at the end of row 2. We've done our slip stitches. We're going to just chain one and turn. Okay, and turn like this. I'm going to get some more yarn. Okay, now we just have to go into the back loops. And so if you look at the front of our work, we have our slip stitching. We do not want to go in there. We want to go into the top of our first row, which was single crochet. So you can see, this is the first one. It's kind of hard to tell. Let me pull this out. This is the first stitch. Here's the second one, the third one, and so forth. You're going to go into these loops, and you're going to make a row of single crochet. So let me go into the first. Okay, that's one. Here is my next space. 2. Here's my next. And I'm basically just like pushing down the row of slip stitching with my finger over here so I don't go into there. And you're just going to go all the way across like this. Okay, and I'm at the very end. I'm just going to go into this very last space. You can see there's a slip stitch there, so I'm just going to go into this end space here, like this. Okay, for 21 stitches. Chain one and turn. And now you can see what you're creating here. Now we're going to do slip stitches all the way across. Into the first, slip stitch, oops, stitch. Now these little imperfections here, you can totally fix that by just cutting the yarn before it's messed up like that and sewing the two pieces together, and you will never see this. But for the purpose of this video, we're just gonna forget about that. So I'm just gonna slip stitch across, and you're gonna just repeat that for the rest of the bag by alternating the single crochet rows going into that back loop, not into the slip stitch rows, and then you're going to do a slip stitch row. You're always going to chain one and turn after every row. So go ahead and complete the rest of these rows until the end of row 34. Okay, so I finished my rows and now I'm going to start slip stitching around the entire piece. So I'm going to turn my work and start with the sides. And what we're going to do is we're going to be slip stitching in between these braided rows only. And this is just going to kind of make the bag curve a little bit. So starting here in the very top, I'm just going to go in between these two braided rows and do a slip stitch, skip over this, find my hole, go into the next, like that. And I'm going to do this all the way across. So essentially you're skipping half of the length, and that just kind of makes the bag curve and it's pretty. Go all the way across. Okay, now I'm at the corner and I'm just gonna maybe go into this last one here to make it look nice. And then I'm going to turn to the bottom of my work. And this is super easy. We know where to go. We just go all the way across our chain. This is our bottom chain we started with, and this is why we always go into the third back loop when we start doing crochet. That way we have a symmetrical chain. So I'm just going to go across the bottom and slip stitch. Okay, now I'm at the other corner. So I just slip stitched here, and now I'm just going to go in between these two, and I'm going to say a good place is maybe here. Do a slip stitch there. Now I'm going to go in between these rows. Okay, and you're going to go in between every row. Now I'm at the very top of my work, and I'm not going to do slip stitching across the top because this last row we did originally when we finished was a row of slip stitches anyway. So I'm just going to end this here by pulling out this yarn. Okay, so this is the finished piece, and now what we're going to do is turn it because the purse goes in this direction, and I know it looks funny. Actually, if you can see, this half is bigger than this half because my yarn just decided to change all of a sudden, but yours should look normal. Now you have to sew the sides together, but before you even sew the sides together, I would go ahead and get out your fabric and cut the same size fabric as your bag, or you can just follow directions and cut the square out according to that. But you know, every t-shirt yarn is different, every gauge is different, and so I would just use this that you made and cut out your fabric so that you know the size of your lining. Of course, make sure you leave a seam allowance everywhere, like about an inch. Okay, so whenever you sew together the bag, you're gonna keep it right side up like this, and you're just gonna fold it like this. Make sure that your lines are running vertically. You're gonna fold it, okay, inside out basically, and then you're going to turn your work. You're going to get out a string, some of your yarn, get out a really long string. You're going to cut that. You're going to thread your tapestry needle, and then you're just going to go back and forth and sew along the sides. I would go all the way down and all the way back and then sew in this too. You're going to do that on both sides. Okay, and that's how you're going to secure the bag. And then when you do that, you just flip it back inside out or right side out. Okay, and that's how you do that. Now we're going to attach the zipper to the lining and attach the lining to the bag. So I just use this as a way to measure my fabric. So I cut out some fabric and I left myself a seam allowance. So you need a zipper, you need an awl, you need a tapestry needle, and you need some thread or yarn or twine or whatever, because you're going to be making slits along your zipper. So the first thing you want to do is take your awl and your piece of fabric in your zipper. Let's move this stuff out of the way. Okay, and open up your zip, and you want to make sure that you put the fabric facing up and the zipper facing in. This is very important. So you're going to put this here at the very top, and you're going to get out some pins, and you're just going to pin this down in a couple spots. Okay, and you can take a fabric pen and mark dots along here that you're going to poke holes into with your awl, or you can just eye it and do about a hole every inch. And so you're just going to take your awl and you're going to poke a hole. I've already poked holes in mine. You're just going to poke it through the fabric and the zipper at the same time. So you're going to do that. And you're going to make sure that your very last hole passes up the actual zipper. And also your very first hole needs to be past the zipper. So go ahead and do that. And then you need to take out some twine or whatever. And you need to cut this 3 times or even 4 times the length of your zipper. You need to have a lot of yarn to play with. So go ahead and cut that. And then you're going to thread your tapestry needle. Okay. And now I'm going to just tie a knot on the end over here. Like this. No one's going to see it. Don't worry about it. And what you're going to do is you're going to come up from the bottom through both the fabric and the zipper through your hole, your first one. Okay? You're going to come through. All right. And then you're going to go to your next hole, which I poked here. And then you're going to go through your next hole. Okay. Okay, and then the rest of your stitches are going to be back stitches. So you're going to go up through the next hole. Let me make sure this hole is good to go. Hold on one second. Find my hole, okay? Okay, especially when you have a super long thread, it just catches on everything. Okay, and now you're going to be making a back stitch. So you're going to go back to the first hole backwards and go into the same hole there. Okay, I'm going to move my needle. And then I'm going to find my next hole on the bottom, and I'm going to go up and through, and then I'm going to make a back stitch. So you're going to continue into the very end, and then I'll meet you over here. Okay, I have now reached the other end here. So now at this point, I need to connect these two ends by going across back and forth, but we still need to do this with the zipper and the fabric. So now what we're going to do is flip our other side over. I'm going to open up this zipper, and I'm going to match this up, and I'm going to fold it like this, if you can see. okay? You do not want to lay this on top. You want to fold the fabric like this. That way, in the inside of your bag, when you look in the inside, you have a nice seam across, okay? So you're gonna fold this here, and I'm just gonna put some pins. Actually, let me give myself some space here. I'm gonna fold the fabric all the way across. And pin it. Okay, so now what we need to do is we need to go across back and forth to the other side to close this together. So I'm gonna now zip this closed to just help myself out like this. Okay, so I'm gonna take my needle, I'm gonna go across to the other side and go through my designated hole. Flip this around the other way, it's easier for me. Okay, and you're gonna sew through. And now I've pulled this together, and now what you have to do is go back and forth a few times to just secure this corner. So I'm gonna poke a hole close to this hole right here, but not exactly in the same hole. I'm gonna poke close to it, so let me get my awl and just make this a little easier for myself. And I'm gonna come up. Okay. And I'm now going to go to the other side, and I can go back through the same space here, it's okay. And now I'm going to go back to the other side, so I'm going to poke a hole that is close to this hole, so let me go here. Come up. And you might get tangled up like me, okay. And then go back over to the other side, and you can go into one of those holes. So now I have gone back and forth a few times, and I have a secure edge. And now you're going to be working on this other side, going into all the holes you've already poked. And if you used a fabric pen, you know exactly where to go. So you're going to just do your back stitches all the way down until you get to the other corner, and then you're going to go back and forth like you did on this side, and you're going to tie a knot, and that's that. It doesn't matter what the piece looks like here on the outside, because you're never going to see this once we put it inside the back, and you'll see what I'm talking about. So go ahead and go over here, and I'll meet you on the end when we finish this part. Okay, so I have finished my adding the zipper to the lining. And I'm going to keep this open, and what you're going to do at this point, this is, you know, inside out, you're going to sew the edges, both of these edges, and close them up. It's best to do this with a sewing machine because you can make the stitches much more secure and tight, but you can also hand stitch this. So you're going to sew that, and then once you do that, you're going to get out your purse, and I have sewn up one side just to demonstrate this. Before you put the lining into the bag, you need to have attached your flowers already, because on the other side your flower stems and everything might show. So you want to cover that up. So attach the flowers, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take your lining, make sure the zipper is in the direction you want it to zip closed. So for me, this is fine like this. You're going to stick it in just like the way it is. And then basically, as you can see, you have these loops, okay, and you have your slip stitch loops. And you're going to be slip stitching every loop together, including one of these loops here. And it's going to close it in like this so you will only see the inside when you open like that. Okay, so technically you will have your string already attached, because I just cut my string because I accidentally cut my string, but you're not supposed to cut your yarn after you're done slip stitching across the entire bag. Keep the yarn attached, but so you won't have to, you'll already have your loop on there like this. And what you're going to do is you're just simply going to come through, I'm going to say this back loop here, and you're going to pick up one of these loops. So let me zoom in a little bit. You're going to pick up one of these loops. Okay, and then, where's my yarn? You're going to yarn over and pull through both of those loops, and then go into the next. Pick up the next loop like this, yarn over and pull through all of those loops. Go into the next, pick up a loop, and go through. Okay, and then you can see that it's virtually invisible. Because I didn't use yarn here, well, I used cream, but if you use white you would never see this. And then on the inside it's perfectly seamless. You cannot see any of this nasty stuff on the outside. Okay, and so you're going to go around the whole bag and you're just going to slip stitch into every single stitch you have made. And when you have the corners where you have done here, you've done, you know, this back and forth, you can put 3 stitches into the same one, and that will just kind of close it in like this. And that's how you make the bag. That's how you make the bag. So just remember to, if you wanted to like add a loop, handle, or a tassel, for example, I would add all of those details before you include the lining. The lining needs to be the very last thing that you add, so that everything is perfectly seamless and you can't see any of your stuff on the outside. Okay? And that's how you make the bridal ribbed clutch. Thanks for watching.